Hello, and welcome to your first class in your thesis courses. It's officially called Research and Education 1, and in the spring you'll be taking Research and Education 2. And over the course of those 2 semesters, you will be completing a 5-chapter thesis. I want to today just give you an overview of how each semester is going to look and a little bit more about this semester. So together there's 8 of you who are going to be taking this journey together. Most of you are from the School Library Media program, but there's also 2 other programs represented here. We have combined the 2 sections of the thesis class together. For various administrative reasons, there's 2 sections, but we're going to be working together as one class. So it's a 5-chapter thesis. Your what is a 5-chapter thesis over the next 2 semesters, 3 chapters in the fall, data collection, and 2 chapters in the spring. We're going to be meeting on Blackboard. This is a completely online course. We'll be doing some work on Blackboard, but we'll also be doing a lot of one-on-one meeting where I'm discussing with you individually your own thesis. I'm going to be using Zoom, which is if you've done your group interview, then you've used Zoom. If not, it's a very easy, just loads a little bit of software on anything with a camera, and I do want to see you face to face. It's much easier to discuss. We can also share screens, so we need to figure out a way for you to be able to have access to a desktop, laptop, tablet, iPad, or if nothing else, a smartphone with a camera. A smartphone might be a little bit difficult when we're discussing some of your writing, because what I will do is put up your writing on the screen with edits and suggestions written on it, and we're going to discuss it together, but we'll figure it out. I also will do in-person meetings if you happen to be close and you prefer to come in. I am perfectly fine with that, but you are not required to, which is why I like to use Zoom, because it or some kind of face-to-face software, because it replicates that feeling of talking face-to-face. When I have set up a weekly schedule on Blackboard with some assignments due here and there that will help you develop parts of your thesis. Our weeks are going to run from Thursday morning to Wednesday midnight, but it's not going to be as scheduled as a regular class would be. I want to give you the weekly schedule and some due dates, which we'll discuss, in order to give you some structure overall. Time management is really important when writing a large paper such as this. The Clockwork Muse by Eviatar Zerubbabel is a short book that addresses this. It's not mandatory, but it might be helpful as you're thinking about writing. You can order it on Amazon. So the structure of writing will be up to you, but I have given us some dates to shoot for. They may not work out for your particular case, but try not to get too far behind, because it's really hard to catch up, and you need to have completed chapters 1 to 3 in order to get a grade in this semester. And why are we doing this? Because we love learning, and because we're going to do action research, which can help you become better at your jobs, and you'll be finished with your master's when you're done, and you'll be very proud of yourself when you've finished. So it is a lot of work, but it's a really big accomplishment, and you can feel very proud of yourself when you finish this. So on Blackboard, you're going to see some assignments. The assignments are going to be things that will get you thinking and practicing things for your thesis. Everything you do is going to be then used in your thesis. It's not like I'm going to give you assignments that aren't related to the thesis. Everything that we do as far as an assignment will be either a way of writing through thinking or part of what your final thesis will be. We will have some discussion boards, not as many here. I want to find some way for you guys to talk to each other. I'm going to put up a contact list if you are comfortable sharing your email or your personal phone number with somebody else or with others in the class. Feel free to post it. That way you guys can get in touch with each other without me in the middle, and you can complain and swap ideas without having me. I'm always available, and I'll have a question discussion board. Well, actually, mostly direct your questions directly to me, because each of you are probably going to have different questions. So in that way, it's different from other classes, because I'm usually, if you've had me before in a class, I'm usually very structured and have particular things each week, and here it's going to be a little less structured. There'll be some in the beginning, but then you are going to be working on your chapters and spending some time. There may be weeks where I'll just say, keep working. Right now you can only see the first tab for the first week. I'm still working on making some changes to the class. I'm not going to be giving you a lot of readings. There's some readings that you will do just to help you with your thesis. Most of the reading you're going to do in this class is going to be your lit review, which we'll talk about in a few minutes. So I will be opening at the weeks as they're ready. I also don't want you to get too far ahead on this, because you might get worried, and you shouldn't. So like I mentioned, we're going to use Zoom. What I'll do when it's time for personal meetings, or if you feel like you've hit a point and we don't have a meeting scheduled, contact me. I'm happy to schedule meetings. And I will schedule meetings at different times. If you want to meet at night, that's fine. If you want to meet during the day, that's fine. Some people meet with me like at school at 3 o'clock when they're done. Some people prefer to get home at 8 or 9 and meet with me, and I will do that too. Some weekends, prefer not weekends so much, but Saturdays I can do some Saturdays with you. Some Saturdays I'm going to be doing interviews, but some Saturdays will be open for us to meet. And the other tab that's open now that I want you to explore, you can explore the first week, and the external links you can take a look at, because that tab is open. Required text, because this is going to be in APA style, it has to be in APA style. It wouldn't hurt to get the publication manual, the 6th edition. That's what you're going to be following. It gives you in-depth guidance for how the paper should be structured and how the references should be structured. I'm also going to be posting a template of the paper which it's not posted yet. You're not going to be writing yet, but that will have some of the things that are required by APA style built into it. The template that we have now has a couple of issues that I want to correct before I put it up, and I haven't done that yet. So there is a student from last year's class who has this book, which if you can get this book in the library, if you can use it in the library, that's fine. It can be helpful to have it right on hand when you're doing some things, especially reference work, because you might have trouble with some different references. But the classmate has this book plus Clockwork Muse, and she's willing to sell it for $20. If you're interested, email me and I'll give you her information. I'll connect you with her. So general information. We're going to be doing the master's thesis, completed in 2 courses, 6290 this semester, 6300 in the spring. 5 chapters. We're going to do chapters 1, 2, and 3 in this semester, and you're going to collect data, do chapters 4 and 5. So in 6300, you'll revise chapters 1, 2, and 3 if necessary. Collect your data and then write and revise 4 and 5. In the first one, you're going to be doing chapters 1, 2, and 3. So chapter 1 is an introduction. It's going to have an overview of your thesis, statement of the problem, purpose of the study, definition of terms, theoretical or conceptual rationale, and your hypotheses. All of these things we're going to discuss, how you're going to do them, and what they need to include. but that's what's going to be in Chapter 1. Chapter 1, we're actually going to work on, we're going to start with developing some temporary hypotheses. Then we're going to move to Chapter 2, which is your literature review. Your literature review will include, well, I'll get into that. Your literature review is going to include some examples of research that's been done and some theoretical and conceptual articles. It is probably the hardest chapter to write and the thing that's going to take you the longest. And most of your reading for this semester will be around your literature review. Chapter 3 is your methods, participants, materials, and procedures. Again, we're going to tell you exactly what needs to be in that chapter. Chapter 2 is also the least structured in terms of what I can give you to structure the chapter, because it's going to depend a lot, the structure of that chapter, in broad terms on your subject matter and what you find. 4 and 5 in the spring, you're going to do the results of your data collection. They're going to be narrated in Chapter 4, and a discussion of the overall results and conclusions and educational implications. So, what's a research study? It's defined as the systematic investigation, including research development, testing, and evaluation, designed to develop or contribute to generalizable knowledge. You are going to be contributing incrementally to knowledge about a particular area that you want to know more about. So your research study is going to be an organized activity that's done to determine an answer to a question or problem. I'm asking you to think about some problems and discuss some questions you might have in your discussion, in the discussion this week. And it's designed to answer a specific question that will add to the body of knowledge and possibly benefit society. Yours is going to be a very small edition because you're going to be basically limited to your classroom or library, and so you might have small numbers, and which makes it less generalizable, which we'll talk about when we talk about statistics and research a little bit more as we go into the semester. So you're going to start with finding a problem, and this is what we're going to work on in the next couple weeks. Something you're concerned about in your own experience and work. You may already have some ideas thinking about it this summer. Problems should have something to do with how students are educated, since we're getting a master's in education. Also should have something to do specifically with your concentration, SLM, whatever else your concentrations are. We'll be doing a lot of the assignments and exercises are going to have to do with developing your problem and then how to research your problem. You're going to be doing action research, which is an applied empirical research in your own classroom or library. And action research is really just for you to investigate and improve your own practices. And in writing it up, you will also be adding to the body of knowledge, because you hopefully will have found what works. You may find what doesn't work. We have had people for various reasons who have not had the outcome that they expected to have, and that could be because you haven't had enough time, you didn't have different things happen in the study, or maybe it's showing you that this is not the way to address the problem, and that's as valuable as finding that this is the way to address a problem. And when we say a problem, it's an issue or a concept or something that you want to investigate more. It can be, we've had people do let me see. A lot of people did, last semester I had 2 people working on makerspaces and investigating makerspaces. I had 2 people that were looking at reading motivation. There's a huge field that you can look at, and I'm hoping that you will have had some ideas, but if you haven't, that's fine. Our first couple of weeks will be looking at the problem and doing thinking about the problem. If you're interested on something besides action research, we can discuss that. But it's basically something that you've been doing all along, but just not thinking of as research, because now you're going to collect data on it. So it may be something new you want to try, or it may be something that you've already been doing and that you want to collect data on to see if it's really been, if you can give more than anecdotal reasons why this works. Okay, so once we have some beginning ideas of what your problem are, so we have a temporary or draft research questions. You need to read studies and theoretical literature about the problem in order to develop your final research questions and find the theoretical or conceptual rationale, and also look at what studies have been done similar that have explored the problem before. So you might not find the exact problem. Makerspaces, for example, are very new, so we had to look at some issues around makerspaces, play in the classroom, gaming theory. There were some other theories and other theories that were researched. So some of your articles will be theoretical, some of them will be actual research studies. So it will be reading and reporting on the research that has been done on that particular topic or somewhere near it. And I will be giving you particular ways to write up the research that you're reading and using for your study. This is a large part of your study too, because this is not 3 to 5 research articles. We're looking at 20 articles that you'll need for this when it all is said and done. So then chapter 2 will lead to chapter 3 as you're doing as you're collecting your literature and reading your literature review. One of the things you'll be looking at is how did they study it? What types of data collection, methods of data collection did other people use? You can use ideas from the lit review, but you can also modify those ideas. So the chapter 3 is planning your study, and you're going to plan it and write it out in chapter 3 as if you had already done it. So it's going to be kind of weird because you're going to write it in past tense, because when you read when somebody's reading the study, what they're reading is a record of what you've done. But we're going to write it first so that you have a plan for your study. And sometimes what needs to happen, because things happen in the process of data collection, we know you need to go back and make adjustments to that after your data collection is done. So we need to have this methods chapter completed in this semester, so that, and I need to have approved your methods so that you can start your data collection sometime in January or February. What we're looking for is about 6 weeks of data collection, and so you should plan to start it sometime in January, February. You're going to have to look at your calendar. There's always things going on. We had to plan around, we wanted to get it done before park testing started, but there were sometimes a vacation in the middle, so you want to think about how you're going to handle the vacation, or a book fair in the library. So there's issues that we need to think about when we're planning our study and planning when to start it. So that's something we'll discuss one-on-one, and no data collection should be done at all before your, unless it's a pilot study, which we'll talk about pilot studies later in the semester, but your basic data collection will not be done until next semester, unless you tell me a reason that it has to be done this semester, which means we have to move up everything. So basically you can plan on writing this semester, collecting data at the beginning of next semester, and then writing your chapters. So data collection, gathering information directly from or about some students, parents, or teachers, and we'll talk about different methods you can use and different data collection. It'll become chapter 4, which is not due till next semester. You'll be doing things you said you do. We talked about that. So once you've gathered all your data, you're going to present the results in chapter 4. Basically, we'll talk into how to do this. We'll talk about tables, graphs, some basic descriptive statistics, whether we want to do a case study or whether you're going to do statistical tests. And this is a very dry, prescriptively written chapter that presents all of the data that you've collected, or most of the data you've collected. Chapter 5 is the discussion of that data, the conclusion, and educational implications. So you're going to discuss what all that data, in 4, it's just straight data. And we're going to look at an article next semester where we look at how this works out in an article, because a lot of articles are written with this structure: lit review, data, reporting the data, and then discussing the data. So we're going to look at how that is done in a research article. So you'll discuss the meaning and the educational implications of your results. Did they result in you learning something new? Did it confirm the hypothesis that you chose that you are trying to test? Did you find that one thing worked better than the other? So we'll talk about that. You talk about that in this chapter. So, so when you're writing the thesis, APA style is a must. Most assignments you'll hand in on Blackboard. I have a nifty new program on my iPad that lets me write right on the iPad and write notes all over it, so you'll get your drafts back with handwriting all over it, and we'll discuss what I've written. It makes it easier to edit too. By the end, you're going to have a full draft of chapter 1, 2, and 3. It will be a draft, and expect to make some revisions when you add at the beginning of the next semester. And writing is rewriting, especially when you're doing something like this. So don't expect that you're going to sit down and write something out and be done. It's going to take rewriting more than once in order to organize things. You may what you hand in to me you will have rewritten it several times, and then I might ask you to rewrite it. I might ask you to change things around, to change the focus, just to do edits in terms of proofreading. Hopefully you will have proofread it before you hand it in, but it's very hard to catch everything. So I'm kind of your final editor. And then, so just know that you're going to be writing a lot. So the final revision, chapter 1, 2, and 3 will come to me, the final full draft is due the last day of the semester, and then I will go over it and the first thing we'll do is look at the revisions, look at the revisions at the beginning of the next semester, and you'll submit those revisions. So some key dates. We're going to start actually with chapter 2 and have a partial draft due 11/7. And what I mean by a partial draft is I want to see perhaps about a third to a half of the chapter done with some general outline due. It takes a lot to write up your summaries, but by November 7th you should have an idea of what's going in that chapter, what your sections are going to be. And this is one chapter where I cannot lay out the sections for you because it's going to arise out of what you find when you do your literature review. You may find 6 articles on this aspect of your problem, another 6 articles on this aspect. You're going to have some articles on the theoretical background that mention that more, or the conceptual background for it. And so I want almost kind of a messy draft of where you are, so that before you hand in your final draft, I know that you're going in the right direction. And then, because you'll have read a bunch of your lit review, we will have discussed your problem. You will have been writing pieces of chapter 1 throughout, but I want not to necessarily see a draft of chapter 1 until, and you will be handing me little pieces of it as part of assignments, but I don't want to see the full draft until 11/28. Chapter 3, your methods, is due towards the end. I'm hoping that if you give it to me 12/12, I can get back to you with some suggestions so that if you need to start collecting before we come back in January, because remember, we don't start our semester till January 19th, then we will have talked about it, and while it might not be written completely the way I want it, we will have nailed the methods down that you're going to use. And then your final, based on what I give back to you during the semester, your final drafts are due 12/21, the last day of the semester. So that's an outline of the semester. Take a look in Blackboard. I have posted an outline of the, let me go into, I've posted something called an overview of the thesis, which gives you a little more information than I've given you now. It kind of talks about, gives you page counts, what we're expecting. So expect to write, depending on your type of writing. Some people, I'm a very concise writer, which drove my advisor crazy, but expect to write between 65 and 85 pages for this final thesis. You may go over if you are a more fulsome writer. I don't want to see much fewer than 60 to 65 pages, because then you won't have been covering what needs to be covered. The longest chapter, and probably the hardest one to write in some ways, is chapter 2. But we will have, you'll have most of the semester to focus on chapter 2. Chapter 1 and 3 are not very long and won't take a long time to write. Those are more, what we work on there is the ideas behind that than the writing. So that's it. If you have any questions, oh, also I would like you to post two discussions. One is an introduction, one is a to get you thinking about problems. So if you would post to them. I think I said that our week is going to be from Thursday to Wednesday, so I'll be posting new things on Thursday mornings. You have this early because of the beginning of the semester. I'll post it. And if you have any questions, please let me know. I look forward to going on this journey with you guys. It's a lot of fun for me because I get to see what you're interested in and how it turns out. And I hope that you can enjoy the process, although I am sure that you are nervous and anxious now. We will get through it. Thank you.